Before my final piece, I want to do something maybe hasn't been done before. How many of you, let me ask this first, how many of you are organists? Very few, okay. So I would like to do, for the next couple minutes, is kind of take you on a tour of the organ, maybe explain how this thing works. A lot of you see all these keys and knobs and buttons and think it's terribly difficult and really confusing, and it can be. Even if you know it, if you've done it a while, it can still be overwhelming. So I want to take a couple minutes and kind of explain to you a little bit about how this thing works. Each keyboard has its own set of pipes back there. These pipes you see here are not the only pipes. There are several thousand more. You just can't see them. They're behind. So each keyboard has its own set of pipes, including the pedal board. Now there are several what we call families of tone. If you know the orchestra, you know we have brass instruments like the trumpet, reed instruments like the oboe, woodwinds like the flute, and I guess that also includes the reeds, and you have the strings. We have all those on the organ, plus another family called the principals or diapasons or foundations. Now as the string section is the backbone of the orchestra, the principal family, or the diapasons, are the backbone of the organ, and so that is the only sound that's not trying to imitate another group of instruments from the orchestra. So this is our bass, our fundamental pitch. Diapason, we can add another octave above that, another octave, keep going higher, and the very top. And we could go an octave lower. So that's the basic organ tone. That's kind of like to the organ what the string section is to the orchestra. Now we have different pitches. If you look here up close, you'll see all these have different pitches, 8 foot, 4 foot, 2 foot, 16 foot, 32 foot. That means the lowest pipe for that whole set, every note, every pipe, every key has one pipe in a rank, and we call those a rank. The organ is a very rank instrument. So that means the bottom pipe on the keyboard or the pedal board will be 16 feet or 8 feet tall, and then it gets smaller as we go up. Now the top, we have little pipes, about the size of a pencil, and at the low end we have pipes that are 32 feet tall. And you don't so much hear those as you feel them. And there's a really big one called the contraposon, which by itself is kind of rude. But you have everything else going on top of it, and you add that in at the end. It's really neat. So strings, let's talk about strings. This organ is blessed to have lots of strings. We have some very soft ones over here. Now, they're not meant to sound like a violin. They're meant to sound like a whole string section. And we have some more we can add to that. And we have some more over here we can add. We have some more up here we can add. Not all organs have this many strings, and that's one of the things I love about this instrument. And so when we do this, we get this lush wall of carpety plush sound. And then you do this. We have this interesting stop called a Vox Humana that we add to this a lot of times, and this adds this kind of shimmer to it. Now, you're by itself, this stop is supposed to imitate the human voice like a choir. I suppose if you were in France 400 years ago in a very reverberant church before synthesizers and recordings, 6 seconds of reverberation, that might have sounded like a choir. We have lots of flutes of different pitches and sizes. We have big ones, and then we have these small, delicate ones. And this can pull away to practically nothing. And then we have reeds. Now, in the organ, reeds, pipes, function like an oboe or a clarinet. Now, and that includes what we think of as brass instruments like trumpets. So we have an oboe here. We have 2 clarinets, which is another luxury that I love on this organ. One up there and a little bit smaller one down here. There's an English horn. And then we have a bassoon over here. And of course, we have multiple trumpets at multiple pitches here. We can add one below that. Can add one above it. Then we look over here on this keyboard, we have the same thing. And then we go up to the top keyboard, and they're even bigger. And of course, every organist loves the brass trumpets that you see there, and I've used those a few times. I promise I'm not going to use them anymore today, especially the folks sitting on the platform over there. So, and then you kind of wonder, what all these foot pedals do? Well, each of these keyboards is in its own chamber, all of them but this one. And each pedal opens what we call shutters. And if you look at them, they look like massive Venetian blinds. And that's how you control the volume, because the harder you press the key, it doesn't change the volume. So you open and close those to add volume or to subtract volume. And then we have all these silver ones are what we call presets. So you can preset a selection of stops on each of these, and same thing up here. Because obviously when you have this many, you can't make big registration changes without them. Oh, and I forgot the percussion instruments. This organ even has percussion. We have chimes. We have a celesta. And a harp. So that's kind of a tour of the organ. I hope that answered maybe some of your questions and maybe inspire you to look up and research more about it. Well, like I said, it's been a pleasure to be here, and it's so good to be back on campus. And I spent 4 wonderful years here. I took organ lessons from Dr. Tim Nelson, and I learned so much from him. And as I'm playing and I'm thinking, oh, my hands are on the screen. I'm really trying to make sure I'm doing all those correct hand positions that I sometimes, as you get going, you kind of forget that stuff. But it was a wonderful 4 years here, and I'm so glad to be back. It's like coming home every time I come